control over our own destiny, maybe gives us this sense of purpose. And it feels like that we would lose a sense of purpose, or that purpose would be adjusted. Like if AI is to really, continue to advance so quickly, it feels like our sense of purpose would start to really disappear. Have you had thoughts about that?
I worry about this a lot. I think people have worried about this with every big technological revolution.
Got it.
But I agree that this time it feels different. Like,
okay, yeah, because if say you had an axe and some guy came out with a saw, you're like
fine.
You're like, yeah, that's.
Or even if they come out with like a robot that cuts the tree down, it still feels fine. But like, creativity, intelligence, I think cuts so deeply at the core of whatever we are and how we value ourselves. One example we can look at this right now, I think one area where AI is having a big impact is on how people write software for a living. And AI is really good at that. It's really changed what it means to be a software developer. I haven't heard any of those software developers say that they, even though their job is different, that they don't have meaning. They still enjoy it. They're operating at a higher level. And I'm hopeful, at least for a long time, 100 years from now, who knows? But I'm hopeful that that's what it'll feel like with AI, is even if we're asking it to solve huge problems for us, even if we ask it to say like, go discover a cure for cancer, there will still be a lot of things to do in that process that feel valuable to a person. Mm-hmm. You're still asking it the questions, you're still like helping guide it, you're still framing it, or whatever it is, you're still like talking to the world about it. And I think all of human history suggests that we find a way to put ourselves at the center of the story and feel really good about it. Like, if you kind of think like, we used to think that the Earth was the center of the solar system. And then we're like, very human-centric view. And then we're like, okay, fine, the sun is the center of the solar system. But the solar system is at least the center of the galaxy. And now, oh man, there's a lot of galaxies. And oh man, now we're this like tiny speck in this like very huge universe. And yet we still manage to feel all like a lot of main character energy. And so I somehow think, even in a world where AI is doing all of this stuff that humans used to do, we are going to find a way in our own telling of the story to feel like the main characters. And I think in an important sense we will be. And that's really good. I also like, probably already today, there could be a very compelling version of two AIs talking like this. And I don't think I would want to watch that. Like, I think I really do feel deeply wired to like care about the real person behind it. I think that's like deep in the biology.
Right. Yeah, that's the part that I think a lot of times it's like, even though you can get into like these wormholes of like possibility and these fear holes of possibility, or kind of this dystopian ideas, that in the end I'm like, I'd rather probably watch something that's real. It's like, because I'm real. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to talk really to a robot. Yeah, I think in the end there's going to be a part of you that wants to continue to just talk to humans. Do you what's like one of your fears? Like, what's a fear you have of AI? Like, if you have like a fearful space that it could go. Like, I know you mentioned it a little bit.
This morning I was testing our new model, and I got emailed a question that I didn't quite understand. And I put it in the model, this GPT-5, and it answered it perfectly. And I really kind of sat back in my chair, and I was just like, oh man, here it is moment. And I put it in the model, this GPT-5, and it answered it perfectly.
A little bit.
This morning I was testing our new model, and I got emailed a question that I didn't quite understand. And I put it in the model, this GPT-5, and it answered it perfectly. And I really kind of sat back in my chair, and I was just like, oh man, here it is moment. And I got over it quickly. I got busy onto the next thing. But it was like, it's what kind of we were talking about. I felt like useless relative to the AI, and this thing that I felt like I should have been able to do, and I couldn't, and it was really hard, but the AI just did it like that.
Yeah.
It was a weird feeling.
Yeah, I think that feeling right there, that's the feeling a lot of people kind of have, like, when does it happen? What's going to happen? But I think some of it is, it's like, yeah, it's hard to conceptualize until you're further along.
I'm all, totally. I don't think we know quite how that's gonna feel. You just have to like approach it step by step. Another thing I'm afraid of, and we had you know, a real problem with this earlier, but it can get much worse. Is just what this is going to mean for users' mental health. There's a lot of people that talk to ChatGPT all day long. There are these sort of new AI companions that people talk to like they would a girlfriend or a boyfriend. And we were talking earlier about how it's probably not been good for kids to like grow up like on the dopamine hit of scrolling, you know,
Yeah,
TikTok
for
or
sure.
Reels or whatever.
Yeah, do you think that how do you keep like AI from having that same effect, like that negative effect that social media really has had?
I'm scared of that. I don't have an answer yet. I don't think we know quite the ways in which it's going to have those negative impacts. But I feel for sure it's going to have some, and we'll have to. I hope we can learn to mitigate it quickly.
Can AIs can they pull up pornography and stuff like that too, or no?
Sure.
Oh my God. God, I didn't know that. Uh, no, it's fine. Yeah, but I don't even need to know that. I'm gonna have that stricken from my own record. Crypto it's kind of blowing up again. You know, it's some people say it's back. It's not back. One of the wallet. Crypto wallet risks pay health at the fish. Elevate my like are there like we have laws like in the world, right, like in the human world, does AI have to work by any like legal laws, you know?
Yeah. So I think we will certainly need a legal or a policy framework for AI. One example that we've been thinking about a lot. This is like maybe not quite what you're asking. This is like a very human centric version of that question. People talk about the most personal shit in their lives to ChatGPT. It's, you know, people use it, young people especially, like use it as a therapist, a life coach, having these relationship problems. What should I do? And right now, if you talk to a therapist or a lawyer or a doctor about those problems, there's like legal privilege for it. You know, like there's doctor-patient confidentiality, there's legal confidentiality, whatever. And we haven't figured that out yet for when you talk to ChatGPT. So if you go talk to ChatGPT about your most sensitive stuff, and then
That's sick. Why didn't I do that? That's... Ooh. That's actually a bit much.
and there's like a lawsuit or whatever, like we could be required to produce that. And I think that's very screwed up. I think we should have like the same concept of privacy for your conversations with AI that we do with a therapist or whatever. And no one had to think about that even. Year ago. And now I think it's this huge issue of like, how are we going to treat the laws around this?
Well, do you think there should be like kind of like a slowing things down before we move there, kind of? Because yeah, that is kind of wild. It's one of the reasons I get scared sometimes to use certain AI stuff, because I don't know how much personal information I want to put in, because I don't know who's going to have it.
I think we need this point addressed with some urgency. And you know, the policymakers I've talked to about it like broadly agree. It's new, and now we got to do it quickly. Do you talk to ChatGPT?
I don't talk to it that much.
Because of this.
I think it is. It's because it's like
I think it makes sense.
To not talk to ChatGPT. Because
No. To like really want the privacy clarity before you use it a lot.
Yeah.
Like the legal clarity.
Yeah, it's scary. And it's like, well, how long does it take lawmakers to come up with that? And then it feels like it's moving so fast that it's like it doesn't even matter. That sometimes it's like it doesn't even really matter. It's like, are we even waiting for the laws to be put around this, or what's going on? Does it feel like it's moving too fast for you sometimes?
The last few months it felt very fast. It feels faster and faster, but the last few months it felt very fast.
Yeah, I was watching this guy, Yoshua Bengio. And he's kind of like, some people call him the father of AI. He may be self-proclaimed, I'm not really sure. But he certainly seemed to be kind of like a lifeguard for AI, like thinking about like, well, you know, how do we keep the pool safe? You know, how much water should be in it? You know, the chlorine, how many lifeguards do you need on duty, that type of thing, hypothetically. And he said, and he was saying that some AIs, they have like deception techniques inside of them, like that there were AIs that would rather give you an answer that was possibly pleasing to the user than to give them the factual answer. And then he was also saying that there were AIs that were developing some of their own languages to communicate with each other, which would be languages that we don't even know. What is that? How do you guys curtail that when those types of things come up? What does that even kind of feel like to you guys? Or are these just problems that happen in new spaces and you figure it out as you go?
You know, there are these moments in the history of science where you have a group of scientists look at their creation and just say, you know, what have we done? Maybe it's great, maybe it's bad, but what have we done? Like maybe the most iconic example is thinking about those scientists working on the Manhattan Project in 1945, sitting there watching the Trinity test, and just, you know, this thing that had, it was a completely new, not human scale kind of power, and everyone knew it was going to reshape the world. And I do think people working on AI have that feeling in a very deep way. You know, we just don't know. Like, we think it's going to be great. There's clearly real risks. It kind of feels like you should be able to say something more than that. But in truth, I think all we know right now is that we have discovered, invented, whatever you want to call it, something extraordinary that is going to reshape the course of human history.
Dear God, man. But if you don't know, we don't know.
Well, of course. I mean, I think no one can predict the future. Like, human society is very complex. This is an amazing new technology. Maybe a less dramatic example than the atomic bomb is when they discovered the transistor a few years later.
The transistor radio?
The
transistor
little
atom?
transistor part that, you know, made computers and radios and everything else. But we discovered this completely new thing that enabled the whole computer revolution, and is in this microphone and those computers and our iPhones, and like, the world would be so different if people had not discovered that, and then over the decades figured out how to make them smaller and more efficient. And now we don't even think about it, because the transistors are just in everything. We have all this modern technology from that one scientific discovery. And I do think that's what AI is going to be like. We had this one crazy scientific discovery that led to these language models we all use now. And that is going to change the course of society in all kinds of ways. And of course, we don't know what they all are.
Damn. I was hoping you knew by the end of that sentence. Or I was hoping you would, you know. Like that's what we're, because we don't know. Like that's I think the tough thing.
There's no time in human history at the beginning of a century where the people ever knew what the end of the century was going to be like.
Yeah.
So maybe it's, and I do think it goes faster and faster each century.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Certainly, like, in 1900, you couldn't have predicted what 2000 was going to be like. I think in 2000, you could even less predict what 2100 was going to look like. But that's kind of why it's exciting. And, that's kind of why people get to figure out and unfold the story as we go.
It's kind of bizarre because there's a part of me that's like, this guy's out of his mind. This guy is a wild wizard. There's a couple different things. But then there's also this part of me that's like, this guy is this hopeful guy who's like involved in this crazy space. And he kind of has this whimsical energy about the future, which is in a crazy way a nice energy to have about the future generally, is that something could happen or that things are possible. So it just, it's all kind of like, I don't know, it's fascinating. It's definitely fascinating to me. Sam, to kind of pivot a little bit, it feels like there's a race right now in AI, right? Would you say that there's a race between companies in AI?
It certainly feels that way.
Yeah. And it almost feels like you guys are the new Formula One drivers, or you guys are like the new, it's like Mario Andretti, or you guys are the new Bubba Watts and all the, it's almost like these are the new race cars that everybody's kind of watching position themselves. What is the race for? Because you hear about AI and then you hear about AGI, and then you hear about superintelligence. What is this race that's going on? How real is it? And what is the race for?
When I was a kid, the race was like the megahertz race, and then it became the gigahertz race. Everybody wanted a computer with a faster processor. And, Intel would come out with this one, and then AMD would come out with this one. And it turned out that those gigahertz measurements eventually were not even that helpful. Like, you could have one that had a lower number, and in practice it was faster. And eventually, I think it was Apple that realized they should just stop talking about the clock speed of their computers. And you probably don't even know what the processor speed of your iPhone is today.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, that was a big thing and it kind of disappeared.
And I think the same thing has been happening in AI, where everybody was racing on these benchmarks. I score this on this benchmark and this on that one. And now people are realizing that, okay, the benchmarks are kind of saturated. We went through the equivalent of our megahertz race with our benchmark race. And now people kind of don't care about that as much. And now it's like, who's using the model, who's getting the value out of it, things like that. But I do think people still feel like we're heading towards some milestone. What the milestone is, they disagree on, but maybe it's a system that's capable of doing its own AI research and its own sort of self-improvement. Maybe it's a system that is smarter than all of humans put together. But they feel like there is some finish line to cross. I actually don't quite feel like this, but I think a lot of people in the industry, that there's some finish line that we're going to cross. Maybe it's this self-improvement moment, and maybe you call that superintelligence. And I think there is a sort of, there's a race to get somewhere, but people don't agree on where it's to or something.
What are you racing towards, you feel like?
It's a great question. I don't have a finish line in mind. There's nothing I could say that I don't think I can articulate anything where I would say this is mission complete. But if I had to give a self-referential answer there, the moment where we would rather give our research cluster, our GPUs that we run all of our AI experiments on, the moment where we would rather give that to an AI researcher rather than our brilliant team of human researchers, that does at least seem like some kind of very different new era.
Yeah, and at that point, who's even we? I feel like it's just you kind of wheeling the stuff across the hall, and who's gonna, you know what I'm saying? Or, you know what I'm saying? It starts to get this idea, if things were to keep leaving the people and go to the computer, you just shoveling coal into the AI, hypothetically,
Again, I assume that what will happen, with every other kind of technology, is we'll realize, there's this one thing that the tool's way better than us at. Now we got to go solve some other problems, so let's put our brain power there. I somehow don't think it'll ever feel like we all just get to push a button and go on vacation.
Got it.
We will, I think, as one version of this is as as capabilities go up, because as we get
Hello,
better tools,
Nepal.
the expectation goes way up too.
Mm.
And so we've got to like, yes, we get much better tools, but we have to do way more to remain competitive.
Well, I think there's this hopefully to say if you come up with all
Or
these.
maybe not. Like maybe the AI is just better than us at absolutely everything. We just sit there being like, all right, that was cool.
Yeah, because well, at a certain point, if something has all the information, right? If something has all the information, it can think and ponder and pontificate and serve multi options of answers. Aren't we then working for that thing? Like that's what I start to wonder. Like if it's the smartest thing in the room,
GPT-5 is the smartest thing. GPT-5 is smarter than us in almost every way, you know, and yet here we are.
hmm,
So there's something about the way the world works. There's something about, this doesn't mean it's true forever, but there's something about what humans can do today that is so different. There's also something about what humans care about today that is so different than AI, that I don't think that simplistic thing quite works.
Mhm.
Now, again, by the time it's a million times smarter than us, who knows?
is part of you want to kind of get there? Like how do we get where like I open the door and I say, "Excuse me, sir," and it's just my
CPA,
computer in
man.
there. You know what I'm saying? Like,
You know, when
What the fuck is
when
our
I was a
laptop?
kid, I sort of thought about these technological revolutions that happened one at a time. There was the agricultural revolution a long time ago, and that freed us up to do these other things. And then there was the Age of Enlightenment, and there was the Industrial Revolution, and there was the Computer Revolution, and all these things happened. And I thought of them as like these distinct things. And now I view it as just this one long compounding exponential, where all of these things come together. Each piece of technology is built continuously, overlapping on the one that comes before,
mhm.
and we're able to just do more and more. And so, in some sense, AI is this big, special, unique, different thing. And in some other sense, it is just part of this long arc of human progress. We talked about the transistor earlier, but like that was way more important in some sense to AI happening than the work we do now. And all this stuff has to like compound. You got to build the internet. You got to get all this data. You got to do all these things. And I want that exponential to keep going. There'll be things way after AI. We'll invent all sorts of new things. We'll go colonize space. We'll go, build neural interfaces. Who knows what else we'll do? But I think at some point, AI fades into that arc of history. We don't even think about it. It's like transistors, which we don't even think about today. It's just another layer in the scaffolding that humans collectively have built up bit by bit over time. And where you sit in our day, you get to open that door. You have this like computer that only has one interface. It says, what do you want? You say whatever you want, it happens. And you figure out amazing new things to build for the next generation and the next and the next. And we just keep going.
Yeah, I think the part that I think gets spooky is I can build some stuff, but I can't build like any technological stuff. So then I'm like, dang, dude, well, what am I gonna build over there?
Okay,
You know?
so right now, I can write software, maybe you can't.
Mhm.
And I have a little advantage if I want to go build some technological thing.
Mhm.
Very soon, you can make any piece of software you want. Because you just ask an AI in English, you say, I've got an idea for an app, make me this thing.
Mm.
And the whole thing just happens. So that's a win for you. Maybe it's a little bit of a loss for me. I think it's kind of cool for the whole world.
Yeah.
But
Mm.
like, this is going to be a technology that anybody can use. You can just like, with natural language, you can say, this is what I want. And it goes off and writes the code for you, debugs it for you, deploys it for you.
And then you can say, how do I use what I just created?
Yeah, but if you have a great idea, AI will just make it happen for you. And this is a new thing. Like this. I think this will make technology the most accessible it ever has been.
Got it. Okay, then that seems a little bit different. I think there's this idea in my head that I'm gonna have to figure out all this coding. I'm gonna figure out all of this different ways to do things to even have a possibility of use of myself in the future.
No, I think this is, without talking too much about the future and what we're going to launch, like the fact that you will be able to have an entire piece of software created just by like explaining your idea is going to be incredible for humans getting great new stuff. Because right now, I think there's like a lot more good ideas than people who know how to make them.
Hmm.
And if AI can do that for us, we're really good at coming up with creative ideas.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things that people like to do. Do you think right now, if humans, regular average humans, most humans,
Good ideas than people who know how to make them.
Okay, I'm gonna go to this